happy to say that Joe Kwan is here today with us tonight. He is an exceptional speaker. He has great charisma. And he's going to tell us how we can get more of that. He's also, one of my favorite things about it, an avid supporter of the Oakland Library, which allows me to bring up that there are brochures on your chairs that show you all the programs that are coming up. And those are all funded, any of the programs that we pay out for, they're all funded by the new Friends of the Oakland Library, and we're very grateful for them for their support. So Joe, I had to put a little plug in. Thank you for coming.
Well played, Rose. All right, everyone. I am so happy to see so many familiar as well as new faces in the audience. My name is Joe Kwan. I'm the Connection Counselor, and my goal is to help people uncover the hidden relationship and people power you already have inside you. To uncover it, to bring it out, to polish it, and hone it so you can have your best personal as well as professional lives. So you don't need to take a pill, you don't need to go anywhere else, it's already inside you. It's just about bringing it up. So I only have 2 promises for you here today. The first one is this presentation is going to be unlike any that you've ever been to before, and there are some heroes in the room, and I'm going to need some help for the presentation. So it's not just going to be me. Come on in, have a seat. It's not just going to be me up here talking to you. There'll be some participation and some creativity involved. The second promise I have is when you leave here, you're going to have a fundamentally different perspective on what charisma is and how to get more of it. Because if you don't understand how something works, you can't really get more of it, right? Okay. So just a couple housekeeping notes before we get started. Bathrooms are right outside there on this floor if you need them. There's a sign-up sheet. You can sign up on the way out to get your copy of the free ebook. And other than that, I think we are ready to go. So it looks like we have a full house. All right, so what is charisma? When you hear charisma, what does that mean to you?
Attractiveness. Yeah, it's a feeling wanting to get to know a person better and like them who they are.
Yeah, an attractiveness, wanting to get to know who they are. What else?
I think it's someone's personality.
Okay.
It's someone you want to, you're just drawn to being by, and
Yeah.
when you are close to them, you feel like an energy.
Yeah, yeah, energy and almost like a magnetism.
Rapport.
Rapport. Yeah. Now, is it helpful to have charisma?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why do we want charisma?
you can persuade people more easily if, in certain things that you're doing. For example, politicians would be number one. But even in, say, marketing or business jobs, it's
Yeah.
helpful.
So why, let's drill down a little bit. Why is it easier to persuade someone when you have charisma versus when you don't?
Well, you keep their attention. I think
Yeah.
that's number one. You keep their attention, and so that it's easy to send a message if you're, say, persuading about a campaign or a product. If you have, I think, charisma, you can convince more easily.
We
Because
like charismatic people.
You like them.
We like them,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And when you like people, you kind of want to help them and you want to be
Right.
kind to
Right.
them, right?
yes.
It's very powerful. Without them even asking, you kind of want to help them. Any other reasons why charisma is a good thing to have?
It's a likability factor.
Likability factor? Does that help it work, Stephanie?
I think so.
Yeah. Right? If you have 2 people, equally skilled, who am I going to promote? Probably the one that I like more, right? If everything else is equal, I'm going to promote the one that I want to spend more hours with, work more with, that I get along with, right? So it's an advantage in a way when you have charisma, and it's a disadvantage if someone else has it and you're competing against them and you don't have it.
And you're not saying it's innate, you either have it or you don't.
Well, what I would say is when you understand what charisma is, you can get more of it. So some people naturally, I don't know if I would call it innate, but some people naturally know what to do. They're more natural. It's just like someone knows how to run faster more naturally or throw a ball faster. But it doesn't mean you can't learn just because you didn't start out that way. So that's kind of what we're here to do today, to talk about why. Now, there's a problem though. What I've been hearing is what charisma is, why it's important, but how is it generated? How do you actually generate charisma?
Probably a combination of things.
Okay, such as?
Strong eye contact,
Mhm.
likability,
Okay,
knowledge of the topic.
yeah, yeah. I think those are all things that people who have charisma do. Although, if I just make eye contact, I don't know if I'm being charismatic, like, right? So,
Right.
Scary.
yeah.
Yes,
So everything you said is true. There's a way it gets put together though, right, that's important.
yes.
Now, what is that? What is that principle? What is the thing that you put all those things together in service of? What generates charisma? And it's okay if you don't know the answer because I've asked so many people at all different levels and no one really has a good answer.
Interest in the other person.
Interest in the other person? Yeah, that's definitely helpful.
You know, everybody seems to be talking quite quietly, and I think you are trying to get the participation of everybody who's sitting here. May I suggest either to have them speak up or repeat whatever comments they have?
Oh, okay, that's a great comment. Okay, yeah, definitely. So, any other,
Well, I think first it's confidence, usually the person has confidence, but
Okay.
also I think they have a better idea of social cues. There are a lot of people that don't know a politeness or the etiquette,
yeah,
and so they kind of crash through in a situation, and that roughness turns people off. So I think it's learning etiquette or social cues, how to behave
yeah,
properly, which you can get from a series of like learning at home over the years or being exposed to the right way to behave in situations. But that gives you an edge coming into a situation, and and then you have confidence, and then you have charisma, I think.
So what I'm hearing is confidence, learning from social cues. I heard a little bit of emotional intelligence
Yes.
in there as well. Those are all things that you're saying help generate charisma. And I agree with everything that everyone's saying. But what we really need to know is what actually generates it, right? I can be polite and still not be charismatic. I can make eye contact and still not be charismatic. I can have confidence,
Energy, the energy.
the energy. Now we're getting a little closer. The energy is definitely key.
Engagement.
Engagement, yeah. But engaged how?
I think you have to be like real.
Authenticity?
Authenticity, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
that's definitely
Yeah,
part of
be
it.
approachable.
Approachable, yeah.
Communication.
Communication, yeah. Yeah. You were
I
gonna say
think-
something in the back?
Yeah, I think about kindness. Like
Kindness.
Being kind,
Yeah,
then, yeah, I think a lot to do with that.
okay. We have time for one more.
I was gonna say relatable.
Relatable, yeah,
How about
absolutely.
a negative one? It's not always positive. We could have evil people who are judging.
Okay, that's the 201 course. That's definitely right. We're gonna stick with the light side, but we'll get to the dark side when you guys come back to the 201 course. That's a good comment. That's a very good comment. So if you leave today just with one thing, it's this definition of charisma that I'm going to share with you in a second. Because when you understand this, once you understand this, you'll look around and you'll see people charismatic and you'll see, oh, that's why that person is charismatic. But until you understand this definition, you'll just be kind of guessing, oh, it's this, or what are these, how do these things all fit together? So let me share it with you now. Charisma is the ability to sense and ultimately deliver exactly what is needed from an emotional perspective in a given moment. So I'll repeat it one more time. Charisma is the ability to what? Sense. And ultimately what? Deliver. Exactly what is needed from what perspective? An emotional perspective in a given moment. So let me use an example. I met Colleen. She was the first one who came in. Let's say Colleen and I, we go to some like local event, right? A local sort of mixer for networking. And we walk in and the energy is really low. And Colleen and I say, man, this event is dead. Are we charismatic?
No.
No. What have we done successfully though?
Know what's going on.
Yeah, we've sensed what's needed, that they need more energy. You said energy before, right? Like the event needs something. Now, how would we be charismatic? What would we have to do to be charismatic in that situation at a networking event?
Change the tone, become more engaged.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just sitting there and kind of rolling your eyes or, you know.
Yeah, sort of
passive.
raise it out of what
Yeah.
we do. Yeah, you were gonna say.
Yeah, find a way to bring the energy up by
That's right.
either introducing yourself, telling a joke, making an icebreaker.
That's absolutely right. Okay, now, let's switch the scenario. Let's say my parents are here, my mom and dad is here, as well as my wife and son. But let's say I'm there with my family at a hospital, we have a relative, they've been in an accident, you know, they're gonna be okay, but they're in surgery right now. We're waiting for the doctors to come out and tell us how the surgery went. That skill we had at the networking event, hey, how you doing, telling jokes, making everyone feel good, is that charismatic at the hospital?
No.
No. What's charismatic at the hospital?
Empathy.
Empathy,
Compassion.
compassion. Why is that charismatic at a hospital?
It's a different situation.
That's what's needed.
That's what's needed, right?
Yeah.
Sense
Emotion.
of emotions we delivered.
Yeah.
People always I worked at Hackensack for 12 years, and people always expect you to have a certain kind of attitude. And
Yeah.
sometimes the outcome, they've gotten a call last minute, there was an auto accident, or they got bad news and they suddenly had to come for a test. And sometimes people walk in thinking that the best thing you're going to give them is good news. And unfortunately, that's not always the case. But that doesn't mean they can't have a good outcome in how they feel when
That's
they
right.
leave.
Right,
Because it's
right.
up to you on any front line to always deliver that.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I like to think of it like the end goal is peace.
Uh-huh.
So how do we have, everybody's definition of peace is different. So
Yeah.
how do I help you find your peace?
Absolutely, yeah, that's brilliant. So we can see that charisma is a little bit elusive because it changes per situation, right? So you have to be charismatic in that given situation. So how you are with your boss, how you are with your child, how you are with your parents, they're all different scenarios. So you can't come up with one formula and say, eye contact, joke, plus, I don't know, like good energy equals charisma. It doesn't work that way. You have to assess the situation, know the emotion, and figure out the way to deliver the emotion. So we're gonna drill a little bit deeper into that today. We'll go over some of the fundamentals of that, but before we do, one more time, charisma is the ability to what? Sense. And ultimately what?
Deliver.
Exactly what is needed from an emotional perspective in
A given
a
moment.
given moment. Yeah, absolutely. If you forget everything else in the presentation and remember this, you will see. You'll go out into the world and you'll see people just gravitating towards each other, and you'll say, why? Because one of them is giving the other what they need emotionally. That's charisma, and your eyes will kind of be opened, and then you'll have the opportunity to do that yourself. So we're gonna drill into this a little bit more, but there are some heroes in the room. I'm gonna get some help from you. I have some negative superpowers, reverse superpowers we call them in my family. One of them is I have the ability to fall asleep, like in any situation, whether it's appropriate to fall asleep or not. And then the other reverse superpower I have, and my dad can attest to this because I'm always calling him for directions, I can get lost even while I'm using a GPS. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible, right? But I do have one superpower, and it's the ability to sense other heroes in the room. Somewhere in this room, there's someone who has the ability to read minds. Someone who's really good at completing, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, there she is! What was your name again? Diane, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. Okay. So I want you to complete this phrase for me since you are a mind reader, all right? So we're going to talk about how you sense what is needed emotionally, and Diane's going to help us. So everyone give Diane a round of applause. So in order to sense well emotionally what's needed, you need to be calm, cool, and she's powerful. You see that? Oh my gosh. Calm, cool, and collected. And I want you to do me a favor. to remember that in case I forget. And then the collected, I want you to take the L's and kind of like bend them over so they look like N's instead of L's.
Okay.
So what do we have? Calm, cool, and
Connected.
connected. So those are the three things we need. Calm, cool, and connected in order to be able to sense what's going on. From time to time, I may call on your mind-reading powers, but for now, you can have a seat. Thank you so much. See, that was easy, right? Very gentle, very gentle. All right, so who's up next? There's someone else in this room who really likes pets, really likes animals, and has the ability to commune with animals and just talk to them. Is there anyone in the room like this? I sense that. Oh, there she is. What was your name? Peggy. Come on up, Peggy. Have a seat, Peggy. All right, everyone give Peggy a round of applause and encouragement. Thank you for being a good sport, everyone. Okay, so we're going to talk about being calm. All right. So let's say you're in a situation and a fearsome animal is coming at you, like a Rottweiler or a bear or something. We're in Oakland, right? We got bears. How do you react to that?
The first thing is I don't make direct eye contact
Yeah.
because they find that very threatening.
Yeah.
I try to, if it was a wild animal, I would put myself lower to the ground,
Yeah.
again, so that I wouldn't appear as threatening.
Yeah.
And I would use a very soft voice when speaking with them. And there are clinical studies that prove the same sound that we make for a baby, shh, helps all animals.
Yeah.
So if you could be in the water with a dolphin, or you could be, with a horse that got loose in a field, or a dog that, hadn't been fed in a long time, and you can use that technique on any animal, I promise.
Now Peggy has the power. You guys remember Beastmaster with Mark Singer? He could like talk to the animals. All right. So she has that power. So she's able to stay calm. Now, for most people in that situation that aren't good with animals, what are the two things? It's fight or
Flight.
Oh my gosh, she's still reading my mind. It's fight or flight, right? So that's like a survival mechanism, right? When you don't know what to do, your automatic reaction is to fight or to run away, because that's what we do to survive. Now, there's a problem with that. When you fight or flight, you get tunnel vision, right? And you're just thinking. Well, you're really not even thinking, right? You're just moving to survive. And when you're in that mode, let's say when we're not talking about animals, let's say the animal is a strong emotion that you're feeling, then you can't see clearly, right? If someone, you know the word triggering, right? If someone triggers you,
Yeah.
you can't sense what they're feeling because you're too busy being triggered and fighting or wanting to run away from that situation. Does that happen to people? I mean, I think we all experience that
Yeah.
as human beings. So that's why the first principle that you need to understand to sense what's going on with other people is, as Peggy gave a great example in real life, you have to stay calm so you can see and think what's going on with them. So thank you. So, somewhere in this room, there's a hero who travels through time and just can control time and is very good with schedules and time management. Is there someone in the room like that? Ow, I see them, I see them. Melanie, you are laughing too much. Yeah, come on up, come on up. Come on up. I work with her at KPMG. Come on up. Okay, have a seat. All right, let's all give her a round of applause. Okay, so you have a time machine. Is it a car? Is it a phone booth? What kind of time machine is it?
Let's go with phone booth.
It's a phone booth, and it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside for any Doctor Who fans. So your time machine has been modified. It runs on boiled pasta. Okay? So let's say you're ready, you open the engine, you're about to pour some cool water and to fire it up, and you pour some water into like a pan that creates the engine, and you look into the pan or the pot. What do you see? Pour water in, you pour it in the pot, what do you see?
Besides the water you're saying?
Yeah, what do you see when you look into the water?
My reflection.
Yeah, you see a reflection and you see the pot, right? Now let's say you pour some pasta in, and now you look into the water. What do you see?
The pasta.
You see the pasta. So she's seeing clearly what's in there because the water is clear and cool.
Oh,
Cool, right? We said calm, cool, and connected, right? Now, let's say you fire up your engine. Fire it up. Fire up your engine. Turn it on. Oh, the engine's on. The water starts boiling, right? And it's getting hot. Bubbles are bubbling. You look in the pot. What do you see?
Mostly the bubbles.
Mostly bubbling, right? You can't see the bottom of the pot anymore. And you certainly can't see the pasta. And then if you're unlucky, the pasta starts to boil over, and then you have a big mess, right? So the thing about emotions and sensing emotion is when you turn on the time machine, where's she going? Where are the two places she can go? Forward or backward, yeah, the future or the past. So what happens is when we're in a situation emotionally and we're getting upset, it's because we're actually going into the past and thinking about baggage of things that happened to us before that relate to what's going on now, or we're going into the future. We're projecting into the future as to what does this mean to me? Well, how is this going to affect my results in the future? So if you really want to see clearly about what's going on with another person, where do you need to be? Past, present, or future? Present. Yeah, you need to stay in the present so you can see clearly, because the past will color or distract you from what's really going on in the present, and your anxieties of the future will have the same effect. Right? All right, thank you so much. All right, so for this last one, we've gone over calm and cool, and the last one, Diane, is?
connected.
Connected. I'm going to tell you, there's not a single hero. You're all heroes in this room. So we're actually going to do an exercise to show a very important principle about connection. So if you wouldn't mind, if you could pair up, and it's easier if you stand, but if you want to sit, you can remain seated, just kind of like face each other so you can see each other. So if you wouldn't mind, just find a partner, pair up.
I'm coming.
Standing's easier. Standing's easier. Yeah, standing's easier. Just stand about one hand width apart, like one arm's length apart. You can stay seated if it's more comfortable. You can stay seated if it's more comfortable. All right, so what we're going to do in just a moment is decide who's going to go first between the two of you. Decide. Okay. So in a moment, I'm going to ask the person who's going first to slowly just kind of move their hands slowly and consistently, and the person who's going second has to just mirror them and follow them. And then I'll give you some additional instructions. So on your marks, get set, go. Start mirroring. You're in a mirror. Yeah, mirror. Oh, everyone's doing great. Mirroring, nice and easy, slow, smooth mirroring. Wow, these guys are doing great. You can't tell who's who. All right, in just a moment when I say go, we're just going to switch, and the leader's going to be the follower. The follower is going to be the leader. On your marks, get set, switch. So now a different person will go first. And keep mirroring. Oh wow, you guys are like synchronized swimmers. You're doing great. You're doing great. It should feel weird. That's the whole point of it. Keep going. All right, in just a moment, we're going to do the last part of the exercise, which is continue to synchronize, but there's no leader or no follower. You both have to keep moving and stay synchronized, but there's no leader, no follower. Ready, and go. You can do it. You have the power. You're all superheroes. Do it. Look at this. I can't believe how.
Yeah, Bob, you have to try to follow both, and you don't know.
All right, great job, everyone. See?
First name is Susan.
Hopefully you have fun, maybe you have someone new.
Sorry.
Okay, so, what did you notice when you were doing the exercise and you were following? What did you notice? How did it feel?
Easy.
Easy?
Well, you're paying
Why was it easy?
Because the person set the motion,
Yeah.
the direction, you just copy it.
And while you were following and while it was easy, what were you thinking of?
Focus.
Yeah. Were you thinking of your Netflix queue? Were you thinking of what you're gonna have for dinner?
No.
No. You were just following. You were connected to that person. It was a curiosity. And my son helped me come up with this great term for the 3 parts of connection. It's called the 3 B's of connection. Be vulnerable, be curious, and be dancing. What we did today was the be curious part, because you were really, in a way, curious. You were like, which way is the hand gonna go? How fast is it gonna go? You were tuned in and connected. And it's the same thing emotionally. When you wanna know what's going on with someone, you have to really be curious about them, right? If you think you know how they feel, you're not going to observe them or pick up any subtle signals that may be different than what you think. Now, how about the part where there was no leader and no follower? How did that go?
Stressful.
Yeah, why was it interesting?
It was interesting because we didn't know who was going to go first.
Yeah.
But once we started, we kind of like did get a flow going.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was almost like we were kind of like taking turns, but not really taking turns.
Yeah, yeah.
And we kind of
Give and take,
communicated,
yeah.
I don't know how.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a subconscious kind of, you go first and I'll follow, and then vice versa, take turns, natural type of thing, not like we
Yeah.
spoke about it.
Yeah, because you're not talking, right? You're not like agreeing explicitly, you're just sort of moving. So you can see there's actually a pretty strong level of connection you can get with someone when you put your mind to it. Would you have been able to do that last part if you were thinking about statistics or what oil change you need to do on your car? Would you have been able to do that? No way,
No.
impossible. There's no way you would have been able to do it. So the 3 things we need to remember to be able to sense what's going on emotionally: we need to be calm, right? We can't be in fight or flight mode. We need to be relaxed, just sensing, okay, this is what's going on. We need to be cool. We need to be in the moment, present. You know, I know a lot of people get turned off when, you hear in the moment or be present. But really what it just means is like pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
You have a person in front of you, a human being. Don't think about something else. It's hard. I mean, I do that. Like, my mind focuses on something else, but focus on what's right in front of you. And the last part is be connected, be curious, and really know what's going on. And if you do those 3 things, you'll have a better ability to sense what's going on emotionally with the person. So that's half of the equation. What was the other half? We need to sense, but also what do we need to do? Deliver. Okay, so now when you deliver a different emotion to someone, is it like Amazon? Can you just, go on and someone else delivers it for you?
Amazon Prime. actually.
Amazon Prime, yeah, thank you. Does it work that way? Who has to deliver it? You. You have to be in proximity of the person to deliver it, right? You have to be engaged with them, connecting with them. You can't just be like, be happy. No, you have to be involved in the thing that's gonna help that person be happy, right? So we're gonna take a look at what things will actually help, 3 things that will help you deliver charisma. Now, there's someone in this room who's very powerful, known for their power and their ability not to be moved. And I think that person is right here.
Not to be what?
Not immovable. You're solid. You're solid. Come on, what's your name? Mark. Mark, very nice to meet you. Joe. All right, everyone, give Mark a round of applause. So there's someone else in this room, though, who's also powerful, but more like in the sense of like Mighty Mouse. Remember Mighty Mouse? Here I come to save the day. So they're powerful, but by looking at them, you wouldn't think necessarily that they're powerful. And that person is over here. What was your name? Yeah? Melissa. Come on up, Melissa. So everyone give Melissa a round of applause for that. So, if you look at these these two in a contest of wills, one has an advantage because if they're a little bit stronger or larger just naturally, right? So if you think about Mark as being sort of your resistance to change, just wanting to stay in the same emotion, and you think of Melissa as willpower, like wanting someone to change. So we're going to do a little demonstration. If you could both stand up just for a moment and just kind of come on right here and face each other about arm's length apart. So now here's the thing. If Mark doesn't want to move and Melissa tries to move him, how do you think that's going to work for Melissa? It's going to be hard, right? It's not really going to work. Okay, so if you don't mind, just put your hand out right here, and then just gently grab onto his wrist, okay? And just gently just pull and see if he'll move. You resist. No, right? It's not going to happen, right? Because Mark doesn't want to move, right? And sometimes your willpower to want someone to move is not enough to make them want to move. But there's a trick. There's a trick that works. Mark, if you wouldn't mind, stand up on your tippy toes, like a prima ballerina. Okay, put your arm out. Melissa, pull. What happened? Oh my God!
Wow.
What happened? What happened? Why did he move?
He was off balance.
You were off balance, right? You were kind of up. Your center of gravity was changed. All right, give them both a round of applause. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. So what is that? What is that thing
Disarming?
when he was lifted up? It's disarming. What it is it's emotion and getting people to feel something emotionally, right? Change. You ever notice that change always happens when something big happens in someone's life? It could be a good thing or a bad thing, and then all of a sudden they're like, I'm going to be like different. Because normally our default setting is steady as she goes. We don't want to change, right? So you have to tap into the emotion that someone has. You have to lift them up in order to connect with them so they can change. So that's the first principle. Then we're going to get to that. But the
That's a big
principle,
reveal.
yeah, the principle is when you can tap into someone's emotion, it's possible, right? If you're not tapped into their emotion, it's impossible. There's no reason for them to change, right? So that's the first part of delivering.
By tap, do you mean recognizing it? What do you mean by tapping it? Reflecting it?
By tapping it, I mean understanding it, acknowledging it,
More than just observing it?
yeah, more than just observing it.
Okay.
Absolutely, a connection.
And how about the resistant person who, even if you get them off balance, is like, comes into the situation as, I'm not saying yes regardless. I mean, there's certainly,
Yeah.
maybe 20% of people are gonna be a no regardless of how.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I would say to that is, you cannot control anyone. It's
Right.
impossible.
Yes,
Tried it my whole life, doesn't work,
okay,
right?
yes,
All you can do is create a situation where they voluntarily want to do what you want them to do,
okay,
right?
yes.
So you need to maneuver and get them to understand or see different things, and then they can change. But you're absolutely right. You cannot overcome,
Yeah,
what
resistance.
people want to do. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question. So the next principle of delivering charisma is there's someone in this room who's very agile, very quick on their feet. Who's that person? Oh, my man Luis. Come on up, Luis.
I don't have enough coffee to be agile.
Okay. So we'll make this easy. All right, so Luis, we're going to do a little demonstration. Have a seat. So he's going to demonstrate for us the principle of leading and what leading means. So this represents something that I want, right? It could be access to something. It could be a connection. It could be an invitation somewhere. It doesn't matter what it is, but he has something that I want, okay? So he can either give it to me or he can keep it away from me. That's up to him because this is in his possession in just a moment. All right, so stand up, Luis. So what I want you to do is, as I come to get it, I want you to just kind of keep it away from me as I go around, all right? Just slowly, I'm not gonna run for it, but just kind of keep it away from me and watch what happens. Hey, Luis, that's really cool. I want that. Come on, Luis. Hey, come on. Wait, Luis. Come on. Why won't you give it to me? What's going on? What is he doing?
Teasing you.
He's leading me, right? And why does it work?
Because you want it.
Because he has something
Something you want.
that I want, so I
Yes.
move towards it. It's almost like this is the closest you can get to mind control, right? Like, he has exactly what I want. Now, what if I was all the way over here? Would it be as effective?
No.
No, right? There's a proximity. It only works when I think I just about to get it. It gets more powerful, right? So the closer I get to it, the more powerful that leading is. Now, there's a problem here though, because sometimes we lead with money. What does that mean? Sometimes we try to lead people by saying, if you do this,
Right.
you bribe them, right? I will take you on this vacation, I will up your allowance, I will do something. What's the problem with leading with money as opposed to an experience or an emotion?
Somebody has enough, they're not interested. That's
Sorry, what was that?
If somebody already has enough, they're
What,
not gonna
what,
be
what if they
interested.
do want the money? But what happens once they get the money? What happens?
It
The next
only
time
lasts.
they want more money, and it becomes harder and harder then.
Yeah,
That's right.
it only lasts so long.
Yeah, it only lasts so long, and then you get used to it, right? So now, Luis gives me $1 for running an errand for him. Guess how much I'm gonna want next year? I'm gonna want 10, and then 100, and then $1 million, right? So when you lead, you have to be a little bit cognizant. If you lead with money, it's actually a trap, right? Because then people just want more money, and you start to feel like you're bribing someone as opposed to creating value for them. So everyone give Luis a round of applause. So there's one last power that you can try to deliver an emotion to someone. There's a villain in the room. I'm not going to call them out because they may start strangling me, but they're here. And we've all used this power, unfortunately, against people we love and people we don't love. And that power is force, not the force, but we've used force, coercion, guilt, shame, right? To try to control people and get them to do something that maybe they don't otherwise want to do. Now, what's the problem with using force on an individual?
They can hit back.
I wasn't talking physical, but that's true. Metaphysically, hit back, what does that mean? Retaliation? Yeah, emotionally, right? In a relationship way?
Doesn't
Right.
make them want to change you, it's just the force part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It backfires on you, right, Mark? Yeah, so if you force someone to do something, and let me just make a distinction. They are choosing to do it because the pressure you're applying is so great that it's less painful to do it. I mean, in a way they are deciding, but it's in a very negative way, right? Because you're forcing them to do it rather than showing them some good reason to do it.
They may resent it.
Yeah, they resent it. And the first chance they get, what are they going to do?
Undo it.
Yeah, they're going to stop it. They're going to stab you in the back.
They're going to
run away.
sabotage it.
Sabotage.
They're going to
Yeah.
sabotage it.
Yeah, absolutely. So force works, right? But we don't want to use force. That's a negative way to connect with someone. So the two things that we learned is, what's the first one? You lift, right? You access that emotion and you lift to help them to move. And the second thing we learned is, hey, you lead, right? So you have something that you can connect with them emotionally and you sort of help move them towards it. And the one we don't want to use is force. And one last point, force has an evil minion, has a sidekick or an evil minion. And that minion's name is should. Okay? Should, just like the word should. Because how many times do we think that someone should be doing this, right? In just a second, we're going to talk about the scourge of humanity right now, which is like the phone, staring at the phone thing, right? And how many times do we think you should be doing this or you should be doing that? right? If I tell you, you should be doing this, how does that make you feel? How do you react to that?
Well, obviously, I've gotta do what, what I feel I should be doing at that moment, and I feel like you shouldn't be managing my time.
That's right. Yeah, human beings, we want autonomy,
Right.
right? We want the right to control our own destiny, to choose. So when someone comes at you with a should, right? You should be studying more, you should be whatever, whatever. And not necessarily in a negative way, it could be in a caring way, but the dynamic, the psychological dynamic is to say, you're not the boss of me, I'm the boss of me. And even if it's something that you should be doing that's really good for you, by virtue that they're putting that on you, it makes you want to do what? The opposite. It could be the best thing for you, right?
Yeah.
Contribute more to your 401k, exercise more, stop smoking, go on a diet, right? But when people tell you to do that, you should do it, there's like a resistance, just to spite people. You kind of want to do the opposite. So
when that happens, as a parent, do you offer choice? So one of the choice is what you want, so
Yeah.
it will be interpreted as should.
That's brilliant. This is totally off topic, but I listened to someone who was giving some parenting advice, and what she does is she always gives her kids 2 or 3 choices, but they're all the choices she wants. So you got a choice, A, B, and C, but they're all choices that I approve. And then magically the kids are like, yeah, I'll take B. Thanks, Mom.
That's funny. That's good.
But it's that principle,
funny.
right? Versus you should do A, right? But if you tell them A, B, and C, they very well may pick A because they look at B and C and they say they don't want A, right? So that's a great point.
Well, they look like they're making the decision, actually.
Yeah,
They are.
Right.
They are making the decision.
Mhm.
I'm just giving them options, safe, responsible options, right?
Not really.
Isn't a lot of this
To
called
teach them how to make
manipulation?
choice.
You think it's manipulation to give people good choices of what to do?
No, but I think it's manipulation to have them lift and lead them, etc. You're finding a way to get what you want
Mm-hmm.
that's anything but straightforward.
It's called a technique.
So what I would say is, and this comes up in the book, I have actually dedicated a chapter in the book on this, so thank you for bringing it up.
You're welcome.
It's the morality lies with the user, not with the technique or the
There
tool,
you go.
right? So if you have a sword, you can use it to make vegetables or you can use it to kill people, right? But the fact that you know how to use a sword doesn't make the sword evil, right? So what we're learning here are the basic psychology of how humans interact and what works. And what I would say is use it for good. Don't use it for evil, because there are people who use, to your point, who use charisma for evil, and you mentioned this before, the cult leaders, the bad corporate, raiders kind of things, right? So it's an important point, but I'm not worried about any of you. You're all heroes here, so I'm not worried. So thank you so much for pointing that out. All right, so we're going to get to the last part of our presentation, so we're right on time. So is there someone here who has an issue with someone who's always on the phone? Is there someone here? Stephanie? All right, come on. So have a seat. So tell us, just in a few sentences, don't use the person's name. You can refer to them as Turtle. So instead of saying he or she or their name, just say Turtle. So you can say my Turtle, or when I talk to Turtle. So just give us a couple sentences. What happens?
My turtle is always on their phone, even when I ask them to be present.
Okay.
I don't care if it's at dinner,
Okay.
at the table,
Okay.
or in the morning, or when I'm asking a favor. They are always on their phone, and I feel it's very disrespectful,
Sure, of course you do.
and it really ticks me off.
Does anyone else experience this? I think she's probably not the only one. Right? Okay. Good.
I have 2 turtles. The 4 turtles in college.
Be careful, she's a mind reader. Don't too much.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna need someone, thank you Stephanie for sharing that with us, to play the role of Turtle. And you're just gonna need to stand here, you're not gonna need to do anything. So can I get a volunteer to play the role of Turtle? Rose, thank you. All right, can you stand up? So, Stephanie is here. And Turtle, played by Rose,
With props.
is okay, very good, very good. So, this rope represents, no, it's the stranded
I was
turtle.
gonna say, I'm not good with the lasso, but I can
Okay,
try.
okay. So this rope, I don't know if it's long enough, but this rope represents Stephanie's sort of mind or her, what she finds in her way of thinking or acceptability. That's the rope, right? So she cannot go out of the rope because then you'd be out of your mind, and that's not a good thing, right? So she has to stay inside that rope. Now, within that rope, can she move? Yeah, she can move anywhere she wants within the rope. Can she move the rope? Yeah, she can. Yeah, you can change what you will accept. You can change. We do that all the time. It represents sort of her mental construct, like her mind, like what she finds acceptable, what she likes, you know, her preferences, right? So I need 2 more volunteers to sort of hold the rope to show the division between Rose and Stephanie. Can I get 2 volunteers? You just need to hold the rope. Colleen? Yep. Come on up. What's your name? Karen. Karen, nice to meet you. All right, just hold that. Okay, so this is the challenge for Stephanie, and we're going to help her. This is a group kind of exercise. We need Stephanie to be able to use either lift or lead with Rose to get her to get off the phone and come here. Okay? But the rules are Stephanie cannot cross the rope. She cannot force Rose because we're not going to use force. So she has to be in proximity to her. Okay? So we're going to see how that might work. So, and you can suggest something, and then the audience can suggest as well. What does Stephanie need to do
Move closer.
to get to Rose?
Rose.
So, and you can direct Colleen and Karen. You can direct them because they're your mind, so you can move them.
But through persuasion and lift to try and get Turtle to do what I want Turtle to do.
Yeah. So where do you need to be though?
Give a sincere compliment.
Turtle,
So how does she?
Yeah.
Okay.
Turtle,
Yeah.
I'd really like it if you could help me find a book that I'd love to read.
Oh, okay, let me look it up on my phone.
I'd really like to talk to you about the kind of book I enjoy, and then maybe we can work together and decide how to find that book.
And I can look it up on my phone.
That's
The library
brilliant.
system.
So you notice she's far away. That's brilliant, Stephanie. She's far away. She's just trying to force her, lob something at her, and Turtle is not biting. Right? Why would she? Right? Why would Turtle? So what does she need to do?
Need to move it.
So
Closer.
direct your, okay, so what does that
I
mean?
need to move closer, and I need to find another way into Turtle's mind.
Yeah.
Like, Turtle, if you would help me, I have 3 other people here who are interested in donating to the library, Turtle. So
That's a good one.
Bribery! No good.
That was funny.
But if you could help me,
So direct them to move. Yeah. Direct them to move. Just
Kelly, would you help me move this forward? Because I think we can really help the Oakland Library if we can tell people why coming and visiting a place where books are is so much better than using their phone.
What's their website?
Okay, so this is actually really good. So let me share something I'm observing here, right? Stephanie is guessing what's important to Turtle.
Yes.
She's guessing. And as far as we can tell, it's still on the other side. Now, what does she need to do to to really understand what Turtle needs and wants, what does she need to do?
Ask.
You have to ask, you have to talk, right? You have to understand. And then so, Turtle, if you could volunteer, what's keeping you so glued to your phone? Just come up with something. What is like something that you really get out of looking at your phone?
I find out what's going on.
Knowledge, feeling relevant, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, what if Stephanie figures that out and now the rope is on this side?
Did you see what's on here? Look at this, I can't believe it.
Wow, that's really cool, Turtle.
So now that you're connected, right? If
Yeah.
she uses the principle of lift or lead, you can bring her
Closer.
Back to
with
life.
you.
Let's look at this and see how we can get other people to enjoy reading what you found on your phone.
Okay, all right. You
Oh.
should have
So
coffee.
let's go this way.
All right, you do it. So,
Trouble was.
what do we notice here? What do we learn?
So we really have to think about what the other person wants and needs before our own, in order to accomplish, I should reword this, in order to accomplish our own end outcome that we so desire, we really have to think about the person that we're involving and what's in it for them, and maybe what would their motivation for participating and helping us reach our end goal be. Not just come at somebody and just expect them to suddenly want to play along with us.
Yeah, and that's the opposite of should,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Should is I want it, or I think that's what you should want, do it,
Mhm.
right? That's what Stephanie was brilliantly demonstrating before. Hey, do this. This is what I want, right? But she had to approach, she had to understand, well, you know, because when people are on their phone, there's a reason why they're on their phone. I mean, it is kind of addictive as well. I mean, there's some
Yes.
brain science behind it, but it's feeding something. It's feeding some sort of emotion, some sort of wanting to connect, some wanting to be relevant. And once you understand that, you can use that to help them and to share with things that work for both of you, things that you enjoy and they enjoy together, because now they want to go with you because they're getting enjoyment out of it rather than being told what they should be doing and being forced.
You really think a parent and child can, the kid is on that thing because all his friends are. And he wants to know who likes what he just put on and what the local gossip is.
Yeah.
So if mom understands that that's what he's doing,
Yeah.
how does that make him come to dinner without the damn devices?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good question. Now,
Well, I think we have to think about etiquette a lot of times. Like when we were growing up, we didn't have this problem.
Yeah.
And now it's the way of the world, but my last job, you were supposed to leave your phone in your locker and not have it. And almost every employee broke that rule. I saw people just standing in the bathroom, like hiding in bathroom
Yes,
stalls, so they
right.
could literally do their thing, and they would get caught by accident because they would put their phone down to wash their hands and get back to their station, and somebody would find the phone and turn it into HR, which is a pretty big bust, right?
Right.
But then I was working with people that were a lot younger than me,
Yeah.
and they were constantly like, if this was the piece of paper on their desk, the phone would be here, and they would be like you couldn't tell that that's what they were doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think this is the way of the world. Like, I'm sure if we had a teacher in our midst, they would say, well, my students are doing it in class, or how many of us have been in a doctor's office where it says, please turn off the cell phone, or, you know, it's a change in technology and innovation and the way we live our lives and connectivity to everything. But,
And the companies purposely make it addictive.
well,
This is
I
not
don't
just
think,
that. They do.
all
I
right,
think it's like
so let's focus it a little
Yeah.
bit. So what I would say is a couple things. One, technology doesn't change human nature. Okay? So technology may amplify certain things, it may decrease certain things, but we're still humans, and we're responding as humans. The other thing I would say, you brought up a great point about, okay, you know, mom knows about this, you know, how will that really matter? What's important is don't get distracted by the app or the thing, right? You don't need to become an expert on Twitter or TikTok or whatever the latest thing is. You need to be an expert on emotionally what that person needs, what's important to them. And then you can actually deliver something that has a chance against what that phone is giving to them.
Mhm.
But if you don't understand that, you're dead in the water. You got nothing. You're just wishing,
Yeah.
you're dreaming, or you're forcing. And as we learned today, force works, but it has repercussions. It's very negative. So if you understand the emotion behind it, then you have a chance to figure out what works versus trying to become your kid's friend. That's not the point. The point is understanding my kid needs something emotionally. How do I tap into that and to show them healthy ways to enjoy it that may not be on the device? If that makes sense.
You know, it's funny because your point about the younger person having this addiction, I have a friend who is like an adult over 40 and is addicted, and you cannot stop the person from checking their phone. And I mean, it's pretty interesting. I mean, there's a whole we could do, I'm sure it'd be totally off topic, but it is amazing how even adults parents who are supervising their children on the phone and like are waiting for the next text are really totally transfixed by that phone. I am stunned at that addiction. Like, and you really can't break a person, like you can't, it's very hard to break them of it unless they're willing to self-identify. You just, you know, if you don't deal with them, if you're not their supervisor and you don't have to deal with it, you just, you know, kind of work around it. But I'm amazed at how I see it, how you know, two extremes. Like one adult I know who's a parent who justifies that she is following what her daughter and son are doing every second that they do something on the phone. The other extreme is I had lunch yesterday, I had family lunch with two nieces and their father. And one of the girls, every time we had a question that came up in the group, said, "Oh, I'll check it on my phone." And it was like, you know, crazy because like she did check it on her phone. We all could have done that, but I think what it was, she does, you know, she has a bit of a learning disability and was like kind of, she's had a long history with a phone issue, which she sort of has diminished now, but she's now using it to like equal her awareness of the world and what she knows. She's
Yeah.
equaling other people because she can look it up now.
Yeah.
So she may not know as much as her sister, but and I realized emotionally what was going on, so I didn't say anything. I'm their aunt. But I mean, I knew emotionally that she was sort of like trying to put herself in an equal position. The other one is in college and she's not. So it's sort of, it's very wide-ranging how this addiction to the phone, how it pops up.
Yeah, you could do a whole nother session on
Yeah.
this, on just the phone part. Any other questions on how to use charisma or the principles that we learned today?
Stay off your phone.
Start with your phone, that's probably the best way, right?
I don't see many young people who are charismatic
Yeah.
because they're involved in themselves and not really.
Wait a second, you mean the top of my head is not charismatic?
I'm gonna disagree. I think that after I think that there are a lot of youths that have charisma, people that have led the marches and the activists. These kids, Greta Thunberg, some of the kids from Parkland who started various movements. I think if you're passionate about something and you have charisma to get people to try and understand your point of view and to maybe lead them as to how we can move forward. I think it is situational, right? I'm not sure, and I'm just going to say, I don't think charisma necessarily helps in a parent-child relationship. I think respect helps in a parent-child relationship and forward. I'm not sure charisma has a place in that, whereas charisma in a political movement or activism or at a hospital with empathy or sympathy about what we can and cannot do to help you survive, it's a different thing.
So what I would say to that is, I think a lot of people would agree with that statement, depending on how you define charisma, right? If you define charisma as the ability to sense and ultimately deliver exactly what's needed from an emotional perspective in a given moment, would you want a parent like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you think of charisma as like I'm slick, you know, I impress people, then yeah, that's probably not the parent you want.
Yeah, that got me thinking, you know, do these principles apply, you know, whether we call it digital charisma, you know, to be able to be charismatic online, just social
Absolutely.
profile? Do these principles apply to the digital world or is it just
Yeah.
offline?
That photo that someone's posting or that quip is giving something to the kid who really needs it, right? They identify with it. It gives them something. That's why they have so many people following them. It's not a coincidence.
Maybe different question.
Mhm.
I just find it very interesting that how did you find this niche about charisma? What leads you to where you are today?
So it's actually funny because I met a coworker of mine. He just started working, and we started talking. And he said to me, "Joe, what is charisma and can it be taught?" Right? And I had been working on coaching, executive coaching for a while, more on connection, not really on charisma. And so we started talking about it. And then I came up with some theories. And he said, "Joe, what you're saying is actually better than anything I've read or watched on the internet. If you wrote a book, I would buy it." So I wrote the book.
That's good.
That's great.
All right. Any other questions? We have time for one more.
I think today young people need more skill to do conflict resolution.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
see even adults, I think something like that, starting from lower grade and up, I think it will be doing a wonderful thing for our society.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully you can write the next book.
All right, thank you everyone, you've been
Thank
great.
you.
Don't forget to leave your information, I'll send you the free ebook.
That's great. So,
Joe, thank you.
Thank you so much.
yeah, real good.
I make little ones.